Okay, welcome back to the County Pulse podcast. Here you have Yemi Runci, you have Chris Knoll, and also have Christy Henshaw. Okay, for our first segment, we're going to talk about bills. Bills that are important to you and important to all of us. And we're going to do a quick rapid fire here, and then we'll take it from there. First bill that I have here is the Flag Display Bill, HB 77, sponsored by State Rep Trevor Lee. Would prevent K-12 schools from displaying flags other than those listed in the bill, which include the U.S. and state flags, flags representing a university, and certain other flags. Thoughts?
I wore this T-shirt just for
Love
this
it.
segment. No, I'm
Love
just kidding. I didn't know you were going to bring that bill up. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's needed. I think it's a good. I mean,
Yeah.
we just talked about this earlier. Everything is kind of early right now, right? We don't have the verbiage on everything, but conceptually and what we know about it right now, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can support this from the factor this is not somebody's home. This is not private property. These are public spaces, and so far in support of that one.
Great. Next one, firearm storage, HB 132, sponsored by State Rep Andrew Stoddard, would establish a criminal penalty when a person fails to secure their firearm in a locked container or secure location and someone under 16 accesses it.
Are we allowed to swear on this podcast? Because
That has some caution. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
no,
to
that's
look at that.
that's a hard no for me. I'm sorry. My firearm is always at the ready. It's not going to be locked up because the criminals aren't going to wait for me to go unlock it. That's just the way it is.
Great. Nice to know. Window tinting, HB 112, sponsored by Majority Whip Carrie Ann Lisenby, would prevent a peace officer from stopping a vehicle for improper side window tinting unless the driver is also being pulled over for another offense.
Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of YouTube videos with these types of things, and the window tinting seems to be the number one reason why they will stop somebody that they can't find something else to stop them for. I get the arguments, and then I think Chris has some strong feelings about this one.
My car is tinted too.
Yeah.
They have tinted
I
cars.
just bought a car and it is dark tinting, and I've been wondering, is it really? I haven't been able to test it yet to see. Right, but I think the point here is if it's dark enough that they feel they have to pull them over because, and the argument is because it's too dark and you can't tell if there's somebody's pulling a gun on you. Well, why are you pulling them over if that's the only reason you're pulling them over? To me, it's a circular argument. Yeah, I think she's absolutely right on this. And not just because I bought a car that has a dark tinting. So that's my initial thought. But again, we don't know the verbiage on this final verb.
Yeah, minivans don't usually get pulled over if they have tint.
Right?
Yeah, and what I've realized too, like the tint for the back seat, especially if you have kids, it blocks the sunlight for that.
Yes,
Yeah, that's not included in the law as far as I know. It's just the
front one.
passenger.
Okay.
Yeah, we pull the shades up all the time when when my kids were younger, when the movie was on.
Yeah, so what's exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Adoption records, HB 129, sponsored by State Rep Raymond Ward, would allow a person to access their adoption records once they turn 18.
Oh,
Interesting. I didn't know about this one.
I didn't either. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean,
Seems?
yeah, it seems reasonable. Like, I mean, like, access it all you want. Like, it's,
Well, I mean, that can really impact somebody's life. Yeah. I think there's some thought needs to be put into it. But I mean, it seems like a really great idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good thoughts. Okay, so we'll kind of go delving down into some controversy here. Free school lunches, HB 100, sponsored by State Rep Tyler Clancy, would expand a state-funded program to provide free breakfast and lunch to eligible students. On the bonus side, it would also bar schools from publicly identifying or stigmatizing students who can't afford the meals.
My gut reaction is no. I'd have to talk to him and see what is the reason behind this. I don't know stigma, and maybe there's a story or two there, but I've been in schools for over a decade, and stigma was not staff has been really good about keeping things private that way. So I would like to find out the reasoning. Generally, the social programs that expand like this, I'm not in favor of, but cautious. I would need to talk to him.
This is a classic case of putting your hand in my pocket, taking my money to pay for somebody else's food. Now, sure, I can afford it, I can help, so then I will therefore donate as somebody who likes to help and help out as a volunteer, right? But if you're taking taxes to pay for school lunches and there's a stigma from taking that. No, I have a hard time with that, because you're taking from other people who can't afford it at the same time. That makes no sense. This is just a money shift. It's a power grab. I have a real hard time with these types of programs. Welfare. I'm LDS. There was I don't remember who said it recently, but they said, the charity from nobody, from an anonymous source, is not as received as well. It's not appreciated. But if it's charity from somebody it is appreciated, and therefore you tend to give back and you become a part of the solution. This is one of the situations I am wholeheartedly against free school lunches, because there's no such thing as free school lunch. It comes from somebody, and a lot of times from the very people who needed it in the first place. So
yeah, I think having been in schools, I have thought about this, and there are multiple ways that this could be solved. Oftentimes you'll go to like a high school football game and you'll see the banners of the businesses that have sponsored. Like they could do school lunch sponsorship. They also have sunshine funds where you can designate per teacher like where you want your money to go in a contribution. They could have school-wide or district-wide school lunch funds where people donate to that. And I know that people would absolutely. I watch Pro-Life, and when Deanna Holland will put out, hey, we need diapers, or we need some. So like it's people step up.
They do, and they want to, and people want to be part of the solution. But when it's already taken out of my pocket, and through taxes, it's like, gosh, now it irritates me. And I don't want to help. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I don't, but that's kind of the impression. So this is school lunches in general, but I realize this is more about the stigma. Is that correct?
No, well, it's about the expanding state-funded programs to provide free breakfast. And then
unless I'm going to call Representative Clancy's in my county. I'm going to touch base with him and see maybe we're missing something.
Because if we're missing something, that's fine. But I donate, I help in a lot of different ways, and I just feel like that taxes are not a donation.
Okay. Well, maybe next podcast I can give an update on that.
That would be great.
Yeah. So I do have a thought also as well. So, I think there's sometimes where we have some representatives that over time, they've shown to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars, or they generally have been good to the community. I think Representative Clancy is one of those people. Am I? Okay. Do you also sometimes you see a bill and you're like, well, it's coming from someone that I know generally pushes out good bills, so I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt on this one? Is that what we're sensing here with Representative Klein? He's not obviously in my county.
Yeah, he's honestly, if you know Tyler, he is one of the smartest, most impressive young people you've ever met. He generally thinks things through. And so, history and reputation can lend itself to benefit of the doubt. So we'll cautiously no on that, and I'll check with him and then report back to you guys.
And also one thing too, sorry, before you get on that, is also if someone pushes a bill, like one bill that you don't like,
right,
and they've have 80% of the bills that are great that they've always been doing, we don't automatically just say this is a terrible lawmaker or something like that.
No. Look, it's an issues-based conversation every single time. You've got to look at what is the principle behind the bill that's being presented. I know who Tyler Clancy is. I agree. He's very, very good. I just have a very passionate feeling about when it comes to charity welfare from the government, because there's no such thing. It's tax dollars coming from somebody's pocket, and from the very pockets that probably need it the most. And if they didn't need it, they'd probably be donating. So the problem solves itself if the government gets out of our pockets.
Yeah, and this is a great place to have the conversation about. And there are those who don't agree with this, that if they find something wrong once, then they, malign that legislator. And
we don't need any of that.
No, and I totally disagree with that. Sometimes I'm not going to lie, there are legislators who have a track record of nefarious bills that would, make you very cautious of anything that they propose. By and large, I have found that more conversations and what often gets attributed to malice is just ignorance. And if we can go back and have the conversations, and then if we agree to disagree, that's fine, and then move on to the next thing that you can agree on. Fight the fight, fight a good fight. Nobody's saying that. Do it.
But fight the right fight too.
Yeah.
Don't just do it because you don't like somebody. I try not to decide. President Trump, he does some things I don't like. But I love President Trump, right? It's just kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
You got it. It's an issues thing.
Yeah, everybody knows in Utah County, I am adamantly against ranked choice voting, and I have some of my House chairs who are adamantly for it. A handful of them, they're in the minority, and we battle that out, and we're friends after.
Yeah, you have
Absolutely. Yeah, okay, just one more here. HB 17, it's the polygraph use. So it's authored by Representative Romero, would limit the use of polygraphs on sexual assault victims during a criminal investigation or the prosecution of a sexual offense.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of polygraph in the first place. So I definitely need to know more. But I just initial thought is anything polygraph related. I've seen where it's not good all the time. I mean, it can be a tool, but I don't necessarily think it's a good tool.
Yeah, I would need to read it. I don't know.
Yeah, and also, like I think you said last week, right? If a Democrat puts out a bill that
This is an example. Representative Romero is a Democrat, and I would be willing to support this bill if it's written the way it sounds like, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to read them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Good law is good law.
Yeah, great, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I have in terms of like the quick rapid fire here. But I know you two have some general bills that you're looking at, and then let's run through them. Christy, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. And mine are subject based right now. I have a bunch that I know of that are in the works, and I'm waiting for those to be released. They're in concept. Some of them, I know some of the details, but I don't want to. They're not numbered, so I don't have the numbers on those. So mine, subject based. We are seeing a lot on property tax and taxes in general. And if you know, in the state of Utah, the tax stuff is hard to decipher. So I've reached out to a handful of people who understand the tax code a little bit better. So I'm going to be looking at the property tax ones and seeing kind of why so many are coming out in that vein. The other one is elections, obviously. So there are quite a few, and I think Chris has a specific one that he wanted to talk about. Election-wise, though, there are a lot of things that came to light, and I know 20A probably needs an entire overhaul, but that's not going to happen right now. But 20A is the election code, and there are a lot of things that came out, just to be frank, with the governor's race. And so we'll see what happens there. Immigration we touched on, and so that one we'll be following closely. And then data privacy. This is probably number one in my county. We held a LCC for a House district and got so hot on this issue that we had to call a separate meeting. And we had about 20 people show up. So data privacy, credentialing.
Yeah.
And, that's why I mentioned the E-Verify earlier. I am adamantly in support of the state choosing a parameter that multiple tech companies can get approved through. I do not want a PPP where we partner with somebody. I feel like, 2 years ago, blockchain was the bee's knees, and maybe now it's not so much. And if we think that we've arrived anywhere where we can say that one certain tech or one certain company has the end all be all. So for me, it is an open playing field with some sort of qualifications that have to be met. My biggest fear, and I think a lot of people have this fear, is that you have businesses that are going to potentially exclude participation. And I think government needs to hold that door open and also always, in my opinion, provide a physical copy of identification. So I'm watching that one really closely. And then the last one I mentioned last time, which is housing. I think there's been a big push under the guise of increasing supply. I think that possibly needs to be looked at, and we need to pause and see if the direction that we have been going has created the outcomes that we're looking at. In my area, it has not reduced price. I don't know if we're waiting for a delay to see that. And so I am generally an advocate for local control. And so I would like to see a little more nod toward local municipalities being over their planning and zoning. So those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are really good ones you brought up, and I really look forward to seeing the written law bills as they come out, because I've heard a lot of promises. I've heard a lot of discussion. I'm super excited to read a lot of those because I think the elections, all of that is just so important. I hope we get a lot done this year. I would love to see us make some real progress on the election integrity, transparency. I think this is the year to do it. We had a disastrous year. Yeah. And not because I'm not going to say because of the outcome, but because of the way that it was handled. And I think some of these bills that are being discussed can solve a lot of that.
And legitimate concerns that need to be addressed.
Yep. Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And Chris, what are you looking at too?
I've got 3 bills that I'm just I'm just going to throw out there that I look, there's a lot in there all coming at us fast, and not everything is written the way we want them yet. But what I'm going to say is, Carrie Ann Lisenby has House Bill 133, the Dangerous Weapons Amendment. I think that one is going to be helpful. I'm going to be supportive of that one. And gosh, and I got distracted on that. Let me come back to that really quick. Matt McPherson has a firearm safety device income tax credit, and that one is I think that's great. Anytime that you can get if there's a device that people can purchase and get a tax incentive or tax credit on that, great. Yeah. Let's do that. I'm all for it, because there are kids in homes, and you need to be able to do that. And if you need to be able to afford a firearm, and you need to be able to afford these devices. So I'm 100% for that. I think that's a great. It's a simple one. It's easy. It's a no-brainer. Then now this one, it's not on the website yet. However, I've talked to Lisa Shepard about this, and this may be the one you're referring to. So when somebody signs an initiative, a referendum, or a signature for a candidate to be on the ballot, that list of people who've signed, if they were withheld, for example, becomes anonymous. We don't know who signed. Now, the reason what this does is it makes them not anonymous. It makes them public. And that, look, this is a petition. You are signing something saying that I'm supporting this, and I'm doing it publicly. You can't then say therefore I want to be anonymous. So that's a big problem. So that will and Lisa hasn't come out with the verbiage yet on this, so I don't want to put words in her mouth. But my understanding is those will then become public. The other thing that it's going to do is, currently there's a 3-day. You have 3 days to remove your name. But when does that day start? A lot of times somebody will come to your house and say, hey, sign this. And you think you're signing one thing, and you find out you signed something else. 3 days, you're not going to even realize. And then it's too late to remove your name. No, that's crazy. So what I think is what she's doing that's unique here is she's going to set it up so that they will get an email or possibly a text as soon as it's recorded, as soon as their name is verified. Yeah. And with the verbiage of what it is that they signed, saying your name was recorded, and from that point on, you have 5 days to remove your name. I love that.
Oh, that's good.
Right?
Yes.
I don't think signature gathering should exist at least for the nomination process. But if it does, this is a great way to ensure that people are signing what they think they're signing, because a lot of times they don't know.
I have a few minutes left, but do you want us to run through the rest that you have?
That's actually the last one I had. I did mention the Carrie Ann Lisenby one, and I apologize, I got distracted. So it has to do with... oh gosh, yeah, I apologize. Let's skip that one, because I when I read through it, I was really excited, but then at the same time,
excited.
Oh, I know what it was.
In the positive?
Yeah, it was good. I'm for it. Removes the crime of carrying a loaded firearm in public streets. I didn't know that was still there.
I didn't know.
I understood we were a Second Amendment state. So apparently I've been committing crimes every day.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a couple things in here that I support. If it's needed and it's truly a problem, and like it describes, then 100% let's get that done, because that stuff should not be in our Constitution, in our laws.
Oh yeah. Oh, I lived in Massachusetts for a while, and I can tell you what a huge difference it is living in a free state.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, if you're going in public, you have to unload it, and especially if you're driving with it, put it in the trunk. The clip and the firearm has to be separate, locked, and the key needs to be in front of in a separate place.
What's the point if you need
All the
it?
criminals do that, by the way. Every criminal, before they go walk into rob a bank or whatever, they're unlocking it, they're pulling it out. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah.
How absurd.
Okay. Well, great discussion. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our second segment. Thank you for coming back. So how's everyone doing? Chris, Christy, how you guys doing?
Good.
Very good.
Getting busy.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. So how was your week? Anything interesting happen over the week? Start with you, Chris.
Yeah, so much going on. Obviously, the inauguration of the governor, attorney general. Oh man, I'm trying to list them all now, and I can't think. But that was an amazing event. Very patriotic. It was just a really great event. And then, of course, at Salt Lake County, we had an e-club with Blake Moore last night. Really good to talk to Blake. If you think you know who Blake is, you don't. you need to sit down with him and attend one of these kinds of discussions with him. He's so good at what he
Was he there in
does.
person or was it?
He zoomed in, but we were all in person. I wanted to have that conversation. I actually streamed it on YouTube, so if anybody wants to go watch it, you can. He knows his stuff, and you know, I always harp on the media. Don't trust the media. You'll see who Blake Moore really is. So I encourage that. Oh gosh, so much happened this week, but yeah, those are the highlights.
Yeah. Awesome. What about you, Christy?
But we got our Lincoln Day dinner event secured. It took us a minute to find a good one. And so we've been working on that. And then our LCCs, we're just working on getting those together. We've had an awesome response from our legislators who have been super receptive to, they're busy. They've got meetings like almost every single day. And they're still, a lot of them are making their districts a priority and still getting out and having meetings with their LCCs.
Yeah.
So.
By the way, can I say something about that really quick?
Yeah.
In the last podcast, you brought it up. You kind of described what it was. Since then, I've had some of my executive committee say, "Oh, that's what you were talking about, Chris." And I actually got a call. I got some texts last night and a call today about how they're actually starting to do some of the things you're talking about on their own. We're not as organized as you are. I think you're doing an amazing job, but it's inspiring my team as well. And I just want to thank you. I have my Senate district chairs and a House district chair who are doing things like touring the Capitol, monitoring the different ballot or the different bills. All kinds of great stuff happening, sitting down and meeting with their legislators. Awesome stuff. So thank you for actually making it happen. Something we've talked about for a while.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you think we're organized. But likewise, like stuff that you guys share has been helpful too. And so I think that's kind of the point of us getting together and having these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Chris, you alluded to the fact of the inauguration by Governor Cox. So yeah, as you all know, Governor Cox was just recently inaugurated for his second term. The inauguration was held at the Eccles Theater in Salt Lake City, and during that inauguration, he talked about a few things about his accomplishments, such as the 2034 Olympics, suing social media companies, and the various rankings for Utah, and also Utah being the best place to start a business. Any overall thoughts about the next 4 years with Governor Cox? What's your perspective from your county, GOP side, right? And how are folks in your county feeling? Optimistic, pessimistic, whatever? What's going on? Like, what are your thoughts about the next 4 years?
Well, I'm trying to be optimistic. I always try to be optimistic first and give people the benefit of the doubt. And I think obviously, we've struggled a little bit, but or kind of a lot. But I think that the message that he prepared in his speech yesterday was about community, family, and getting the government out of the way. And that's what I took away. You talked about a lot of his accomplishments, but then he really focused a lot on community, family, and how we really can continue to utilize those resources that are, you can't measure those resources, but those are the important ones. But if the government gets out of the way, they're going to be the ones that solve the problems, not the government. Government's never come in and given somebody a hug when they needed it because there's a cancer, diagnosis or something like that, right? And I just thought it was a really great message from the governor. I'm optimistic. I think that the governor, this being his second term, I think he's going to be a little bit more able to support the things that us conservatives really want him to support. That's my hope, and I'm going to be a supporter of the governor until he gives me something to think otherwise. But I think that it was a great message. I loved the end right after his speech. They opened the curtains of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and I was just like, oh man, it almost brought me into tears. I'll tell you, it was awesome.
Yeah, I also say that, look, the highlight of the night for me was the curtains going up and the choir coming out. So it's just like, don't take your pretty friend out. Like, take an ugly friend out so everyone looks at you, right? That kind of thing. So, but no, the highlight for me was the choir. Nothing against, Marlo and all the other folks, but I think that was the highlight for me over there. But what about you, Christy? Thoughts from, your perspective about the next 4 years, and I don't want to say the love-hate relationship that sort of we've been seeing within the party and all that stuff, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, you mentioned hope and government getting out of the way, and I think that's where my thoughts kind of lie. My hope, and obviously we're county based, right, is in the ability to have accountable government. And so, and then, government getting out of the way, absolutely, always. One of my criticisms has been that government, especially in the state of Utah, tends to partner and give handouts and makes winners and losers in corporations. So I'm hoping that those are sincere, and I have that there was some really wonderful people yesterday that took their oath, and so optimistic. Yeah, I mean, we have some really good things happening, and yeah, like Chris said, it's been complicated.
Complicated relationship, yeah.
Complicated. I was not there, but I have heard great things about the event and the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, and but you were both there.
Yeah, we were sitting just a couple seats apart, and it was funny because I'm like, we had senators around us, and we had and here we were. I felt like we're kind of in the nosebleeds. I was like, this is interesting.
Oh, they put us way in the back.
Who did you have to be to sit down there? No, it was fun. It was really good. It was super impressive.
Good.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I think same thing here is that, I think it's a fresh start. I think you could feel a sense of, okay, let's reset. Let's see what this agenda is all about. And he's talked about looking to be an ally with President Trump and his immigration policies, etc. So I think we're all going to see probably a really, I don't want to say a different side, but just sort of like some.
It seems like a very positive message. The fact that he's taking on the Trump message and promoting it really encourages me. I don't think in a year or 2 years from now he's going to be able to back off of that. And not that I'm saying he would. I'm just saying I think that this is a strong message. And the legislature, not that we're going to get into this right now, but the legislature is proving that as well with the packages they're putting together. So I'm really excited. It seems like they're working together. It seems like things are going to happen. I think we're going to have an effective couple of years here.
Yeah. Surely, it seems like he has a star-studded cast and experience now. I mean, not that they're not experienced, but so I think it's good. Let's give it a chance and see what happens, and hopefully things really go well. And so sort of want to talk about another topic here. Christy, I know you talked about a certain tweet that was released that someone posted out.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight into Mike Lee and what his tweet?
I have
Tell us the tweet first.
opinions about it.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh, yeah. Well,
Was it on here?
I was off to read it. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
So it says, ask your elected officials today whether they think any government, federal, state, or local, should determine how political parties choose their candidates. If they don't answer with a simple no, that should concern you immensely. If they serve in the Utah legislature, a yes answer is sincere if it's followed by a commitment to vote to repeal SB 54. And then at the bottom it says, political parties and never the government should decide how they will select their candidates. So... And then Utah should repeal SB 54.
As soon as I saw that, I retweeted it. 1,000% yes. That was he couldn't have said it better, right?
Yeah. It was wonderful.
It was.
I think we all agree on this one. This one's not complicated for me at all, because there's conversations. You retweeted it, and then I told you this morning that kind of took on a life of its own.
How does it become controversial? This is just a no-brainer to me, but that's funny. Yeah.
What were some of the responses that you?
Well, I actually didn't even see them because I've got to I've got to sleep and eat, and if I respond to everything, I don't see it. But Christy, you saw some of it. What were some of the negative or some of the responses, I guess?
One of the responses was, the Constitution does not give political parties any rights. And I thought, well, you clearly didn't read the end of the Bill of Rights. And so I thought that was fascinating. The other part to this is that this target is always moving. And so there's some conversation in those people who will make the argument that, SB 54 was the compromise. And now we hear rumors that there's another attack planned through an initiative process. And so if SB 54 was the compromise, then why did it not end? Because power constantly is seeking to gain power. There is no other organization in which they try to regulate their nominations or how they select their people to run for office, except for the parties that are in power.
Yeah.
And so for me, this is freedom of association. This is the right to control membership. This is the people in the grassroots having a say in their government. And so it will constantly be back and forth, but I'm of the opinion that government shouldn't do that. We know governments that control their political parties have a name, and we know what they are. So, have they made it a legal path? Yes. Do I think that is right? No, I don't think it's right.
Right.
So I have a question though, and I don't know if we're like going too much into the weeds about this, but yes, we know what the current status is, right? You have the signature path, you have the convention path. From your perspective, and also from the grassroots level, are folks okay with a compromise? Not I want to say compromise, but like having both paths, and then let's just see who's better, versus like you said, like we're hearing rumors about new initiatives coming in. Is it sort of like, okay, what we have now, are we okay with leaving it the way it is, and then just fighting for our convention nominees, and let's see who the best person wins, right?
I hear that argument. Or I hear that there's hey, let's just leave both both paths, make them available. The problem with that is we are a private organization. I don't care what you say. I forget who it was on the Supreme Court actually said political parties are a private organization. I was so grateful that they finally said that.
Yeah.
And there is no organization in the world where we get to say this is who we're going to or how we're going to function, and the government gets to say no, this is how you're going to function, and then we're going to make you battle it out again. And by the way, all the money that you spend going through the convention so that you could put forward your nominee now has to go against our path and spend twice as much money and a lot more money. And then, by the way, then you have to go through a third time through the general election. Like, it's how absurd is that?
It's
we are
crazy.
a private organization. They have nobody has any right to tell a private organization how they can function.
Yeah.
As long as we're not breaking any, crazy laws. And we're not. That's the thing. This is an endorsement from the party. Clearly it's an important one. Otherwise they wouldn't be fighting.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It is critical that we fight for this. We fight for our rights as a party. And we get the government out of the process.
Absolutely. It's heartbreaking when you see candidates, especially candidates who don't have access to large, financial war chests, who have to beat their opponent twice.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's fascinating, and then you'll get donations to the other, and then these people spend an enormous amount of time and money, which is why, like in our county, we have tried really hard to keep any barriers to entry very low, cost down. We don't charge for stuff. We feel like that's our fundraising, because we are of the opinion that we want ideas and virtue to win, so that if anybody in any of our precincts that has an idea to run for office, that there's a path through the party. This is a tale as old as time. This is nothing new. I was looking at Machiavelli, the Prince, the other day, and I thought that human nature, we haven't evolved so far as to overcome these types of things. And if you go to our website, ucrp.org has the data from the primary. Fascinating.
Thank you for posting that.
Yeah.
That was all from, I believe, Max Sims.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It shows the enormous amount of money that is injected into politics because of the dual path. If we had the convention system, and I don't know if all that money, but a large portion of that money would go towards actually winning the races. In Utah or in Salt Lake County, we have that problem. I know some of the other counties don't. It's Republican against Republican.
Right.
But in Salt Lake County, we got to win some races against Democrats. And somebody put together, and I don't remember the number. I'm gonna. In fact, I won't even say it because I don't want to botch it up so bad. But it was in the millions, tens of millions of how much money is wasted up to the primary, through the primary, that could have been used to beat a Democrat in the general. So the Democrats love that we are stuck on this issue. And the legislature, if you're listening, get rid of this stupid path, because it's a waste of your money. You're not winning more races. Just because you don't like the outcome doesn't mean you get to change the path. It's time to get rid of it now.
Yes, and I like the correlation between Amendment D and the super laws through initiatives is the exact same argument that we have made for caucus and convention. When they stood there and talked about the, representative government, and I've said this before, and I harp on it because if you whittle it down, the principles are exactly the same.
Yeah.
And the irony too is that I have, when I talk to my representatives in my county, I have yet to find one who did not go through the caucus convention system as their entry point into the system. But then when they get in, no, that's wrong. I'm sorry. John Hawkins used Signature Path. But the vast majority of them have gone through caucus convention, and that has been their way to enter politics. But it's just, it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And when you get into it and you see the money, when you see the actual dollars spent, and also, like, here's the nod to the principle. I believe it's Federalist number 10. They talk about why, factions and groups, and it is, if you want to read that and in the lens of caucus and convention, it's a fascinating read. So
Yeah. No, great discussion. And I want to actually toss a little not a bomb, but just a little to kind of get off a little bit off track here. But so last convention we had Celeste Malloy, Representative Malloy, who decided based on her promise, she came back to go back through the convention system.
Yeah.
And then she got a lot of should I say from the same, as she ran through convention, there were a lot of detractors that came out and were like, well, even though you're going through the convention system, we still don't like you per se, right? And I think that's fine, right? Like people have a choice to make, and they still get to look at whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
But some people on the other side were saying that, well, here's someone that's committed to coming through convention, but still got some pushback and some quote unquote hate. What are your thoughts about that process? And I know we've talked about this before, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a number of things that come to mind. Number one is the process. We shouldn't be determining the process based on the outcome, because you're going to like one person one time and somebody else another time. That's not the point. The point is it's a principle of representation, and the representation is really we elect our delegates, we elect our precinct chairs, we show up because we care, because we're interested to caucus. They go out, do the work that, and I'm not trying to say people are dumb or anything like that. That's not, people don't have the time. We've got day jobs, right? And so they delegate these delegates to go do that work, to do the research. And when they came back, they said, a lot of them said, we didn't especially like what some of the things that Celeste voted for. And so she did get some pushback. That proves to me it worked. The caucus convention system worked. Now, it also sends a message to Celeste, hey, we need you to be more, however the delegates kind of determined, right? And I think that's a fantastic thing. That doesn't mean it's wrong. That actually means it's right. It's actually the right way to handle it.
Any thoughts about that as well?
Yeah, tons. We have gone the rounds in my county with this. One thing that drives me crazy when I hear people that over and over, they will say that the caucus convention system is invalid because it does not match the results of the primary. So once the people have spoken, as if God himself has, told us that through the people, which there is weight to be put on that, no doubt. But also, when you are looking at caucus convention, this had this comparison the other day of, like food recommendations. Is it Yelp that does? You go and look at the stars and you can see. And I compare the delegates to the people who have actually gone to the restaurant and eaten the food instead of just seeing the pictures. And so, when we have our primary vote.
Can we just pause for that analogy? That's awesome.
That is brilliant.
And so do they get it right all the time? No. Are they supposed to match? No. No one ever said. And if they do match, then one's not necessary. And so they are not supposed to match. The other thing that we hear is that if a certain threshold, a certain number of people do not attend caucus, then it invalidates the system. Well, number one, we had over 100,000 people statewide come out for caucus. So we were the number 2 largest private event in the entire state, next to the predominant religions,
Oh, okay. I was trying to think of what would be number
conference.
1.
Yeah.
Conference, right?
Right. And so we were number 2, and nobody ever says that. They just say stuff like, well, there were only 30 people in mine. Well, I had some that varied between 15 people showed up to 350 people showed up. But the question here is not whether a system is valid based on participation. Is it valid because the system is valid? So participation ebbs and flows. And we all know during presidential years, you're going to have higher participation.
Yeah.
Right. And so we don't say to the Libertarian Party or the Democrat Party, if you pass this threshold, then you're a valid party. And so participation does not equal the validity of the party. And also having the convention results match the primary is also not, they're doing two different functions.
Yeah.
One's a recommendation to their members.
Right.
Right. And
exactly. And I know I harp on this a lot, but the reason why it doesn't match better, which I'm not saying it has to, but the reason it doesn't match better is because, again, we don't get the phone numbers, we don't get the email addresses, we don't even get 20% of the names because they're withheld voters. These are anonymous voters. That's insane. There should be zero anonymous voters.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of minor exceptions, but victims of violent crime, things like that. Get that. But 20%, that's insane. And so to your point, is it going to match? No, it shouldn't. But it would match closer if the party were allowed to communicate with its own members who voluntarily joined the party.
Yeah, and when it does match, that's great. It's more confirmation
Right.
to our delegates that in their vetting process that they did a good job.
Next time somebody gives me that argument, I'm going to say, well, then give me the list so that I can tell them what the result was. Because that's why we sent out the mailer in Salt Lake County that had the results of the convention. And it was huge, the difference. A couple of candidates came back and said, one of them said, I got a 15% increase than what we expected because you put out that mailer. You did it too.
Yes.
And so the membership, when they see, oh, this was the result, they trust their delegates. They did, and they voted with them 15% more than they would have.
Yeah, and I get slightly annoyed when people say that, the party's responsibility is to make sure that we get people there. Although we like it when they come. The party's responsibility is to keep the door open so that at any time somebody wants to participate at the smallest level in their precinct, that there are no barriers to participation.
Yep.
Like we live in a free society. We do not have, compulsive elections like some countries do.
Yep.
And heaven forbid if we ever get to that point. But at any point that somebody looks around and wants to make a change or sees a problem, our job is to keep those doors open and the barrier to entry at an absolute minimum. And so when people say, I went to my caucus and those were not my people, my response is always, then go back to your precinct and get your people.
Yeah.
And get there.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's to those who participate. And so the conversation with the elected officials about representative government and the initiatives is the exact same thing. Like, we are all advocating for representative government across the board here.
I know we've got other topics, but I just want to say one more thing. And I've got a family member who says this all the time. They don't like to do the research, to be perfectly honest. And yet they feel, because they get that mail-in ballot and because caucus and they're supposed to go to caucus, they don't want to go to caucus. That's just not their thing. And they actually agree that they probably shouldn't be voting.
Yeah, I've won too.
And they're just being very honest, right?
Yeah.
And they don't feel knowledgeable enough, and that's okay.
It's okay.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
If you don't feel knowledgeable enough, either encourage people that you feel are to attend, or don't vote.
Yes.
Right? And I'm not saying that. I know people are going to blow their mind. Somebody's going to say something really crazy.
No. So if they clip it from you, I'll say it too.
Okay.
I want educated voters.
Thank you.
If you're not educated in your vote, and you want to get the sticker and you're doing your civic duty, you're watering down all of the research and the time and energy. And society is made up of lots of different people, and we need them all, right? The PTA moms, that's not me, but we need them. And bless them for doing the service that they do to the communities in which they live. And so if this isn't your thing, then defer to your representative government. I have lots of people who say, I called my precinct chair and I said, what do you know, before I voted? And thank you for doing that, because for some people, this is their thing. And we're made up of a wide variety of different people. And we don't get to curate who comes to these, right? And so when somebody said, can you believe that you guys have this person that's a little off? And I go, we're like public schools. We take everyone, right?
We got short buses and long buses.
Right. But our job is to make sure that the door is always open for participation.
Right.
And I also want to say that, like, we get to see the delegates close, right? Like, we get to see them, and a lot of people underestimate the delegates, right? And how informed they are, and how much they know, and how dedicated they are. So if if you've never like met a delegate or if you've never interacted with delegates, like I implore you go check that out, and you see how informed and educated they are, and they know what they're doing, and they know the people.
Yeah, and to be fair, not all of them
No,
are.
yep, absolutely,
Some of them don't do the work. That's true.
Yeah.
But a vast majority
Yeah.
do, right?
Yep.
And that's the important thing. And we've just got to encourage people those who are willing to do the work to attend, and every individual within the party should be encouraging their neighbors who are those kinds of people to attend,
Yeah.
because that's where they're needed. So let's.
Yeah, there is no, people find criticisms. We don't have a perfect system. And when I ask people to show me a better system, no one can bring up a better system. All they can do is say, X, Y, and Z is wrong, therefore burn it down.
Right.
Yeah.
That's,
So let's not, because it's pretty good. And until we have something that's better, this is what we have, and it allows anyone to participate.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we're doing this as well, right? Like we're here representing our individual, respective county parties, and so hit the like and subscribe button, share this all over, right? This is what we're here for. So going into another topic here, immigration. Let me take that back a little bit. But we shared the video last week from North Salt Lake about the increased in crime, and we showed the video for you all. And I got a lot of feedback from that video as if people watched the podcast. And one thing that happened the following week was a press conference by some of our Utah lawmakers. And a huge shout out to Representative Carrie-Ann Lisenby as well. Look, she's doing an amazing job. I cannot say enough about the job that she's doing. And I think a lot of times, like a lot of representatives get like, nasty messages and emails. If you have time, please send a message to Carrie Ann. Let her know, a lot of people appreciate what she's doing. But from that press conference, there were a few things that we learned, that there are actually bills that they are putting forward to help stem some of these, increase in crime and illegal activity that's going on in our neighborhoods. And let me just read some of them for you and get your thoughts about these ones. So the first one was from Rep. Walter, E-Verify. Increase the number of employers required to use E-Verify to ensure employees have legal authorization to work. Second one from Senator Baldry and Representative Lisenby, to protect property rights by involving law enforcement earlier to remove squatters. Detention capacity by Representative Lisenby, expand detention capacity to facilitate deportations of illegal immigrants who commit crimes in Utah. And then there's one by Rep. Perucci, English language learners, to allow schools who see significant increase in the number of ESL learners to access emergency funds to help. And then as we go much deeper, fentanyl by Representative Gwynn and Senator Brammer, to increase the penalty for trafficking fentanyl. We also have foreign wire transfer fee by Representative Cricius, impose a 2% fee on international wire transfers that's reimbursable for tax filers or waived for people who present a valid state ID. And then organized crime by Rep. Wilcox, enhanced penalties for gang crimes, retail theft, and for recruiting or coercing minors to join gangs. And then repeat offenders by Representative Jack. And unlicensed drivers, I think this is kind of controversial to a lot of people, is from Rep. McPherson, to require law enforcement to impound vehicles driven by unlicensed drivers and increase fee to recover the car. And then Rep. Perucci to increase the criminal penalties for human trafficking as well. And part of that one is also, there was a talk about 364 days to 365,
right,
increasing that. Real quick, what's some of the thoughts about some of these bills, and what really sticks out from some of these bills for you guys?
Yeah, so number one, the one I think is misunderstood the most is the unlicensed drivers. The first thing I hear is, why are we giving them driver's license? And this was done, I believe it was in 2012, where they gave the driver's license. I might be wrong on that, but we gave them driver's licenses. And the thought process at the time was, at least this way we can identify the person when they get pulled over. And that's actually makes sense, because if they don't have a driver's license, the police officer can't arrest them at the time, because we weren't at that time, at least we didn't have the ability to house them. It wasn't a violent crime. There was just all these different problems with it, and so police officers couldn't really react. And so what was happening is they were just letting them go, and there was no documentation of the event. People go to their insurance and say, "Hey, I was hit by an illegal alien." They say, "Yeah, that's too bad. The insurances weren't covering." There was just all these problems, right? So what this does is it helps. And I talked to Matt McPherson about this right after this event, and I said, Matt, clearly people are upset. He says, yeah. So some of the things that are going to happen, or they're going to come out of this, and we might actually improve this even more, is we're going to allow police officers to do 10-finger fingerprinting if they don't have ID on them. But if they do have ID, now it's a documented event, and it's one more reason to deport an illegal alien who shouldn't be here. And so it's actually helpful to promote the message that illegal aliens are going to be removed. We need evidence to make it happen, and this helps with that. And so there's a number of things happening here. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because this is a good one. This is actually going to be one of the things that we need in place to actually deport people. So that's just my initial thought. There's a bunch of others that are really good here. I don't know, Christy, what do you think? Is there anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, this property rights. We've seen horror stories on social media with squatters, and yeah, and so I did not realize that there are a couple of cases that this has happened in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
People are super concerned. So excited about that. I'm going to dig into the E-Verify one more, although I see the need to be able to. I'm always concerned. I always have a concern when you're collecting just leading into the subject of credentialing and electric credentialing. There's definitely like a different take on this, and I know that they need. I talked to Representative Clancy about some of the issues that they have with, in another vein, but identifying homeless people and police officers being able to have a little more context. And so I think this kind of falls in the same thread of knowing who you're dealing with. So I want to kind of get into the weeds of that one, but to be determined. These look good. I was so grateful to see that press conference, and I felt like they handled it in the spirit of things. I think there was a good quote from Representative Lusenby. And to be fair, I have taught in a high school that had a high population of students with stories that haunt me to this day about things that they have gone through. And we know that it's a sensitive issue, and that these are humans. We also know that you don't have a state or a country if you don't have borders. And so to balance those two things, I do think they're taking reasonable approaches. And we'll see. I'm gonna do a little research on some of these, but I was happy to see that press conference on Monday.
Yeah. And I think to really the quote that you talked about, I think really embodies the spirit behind all of this, right? And by Representative Lisenby, she said, it's part of our culture to welcome people who come here to search for a better life, to work hard and to obey the law, and to be part of our community. And I think that's really what America is all about. Right. It's about, we're an open, we're open to everyone, and you come in here and you live your life according to our culture, legally, etc. And that's it, right? Like, I mean, what else are we asking for, or anyone else? Yeah.
And I think it's interesting. Some of the comments, some of the criticisms I've seen, I think has been misunderstanding between an illegal alien, a refugee, and a legal immigrant. I have no problem with legal immigrants, and I actually have no problem with true refugees. I know some people are abusing that title, and so to what Carrie Ann Lisenby is saying here, if they're coming here for a better life and they're doing it legally, I am 100% supportive of that, and I'm very supportive of refugees. I don't know if you guys know Carlos Moreno. Mm-hmm. He is a true refugee. He came from Venezuela. He almost went back home, and oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the leader, but anyway, on national radio, he called Carlos Moreno a traitor to the country. Carlos had no home at that moment. He had nowhere to go, and he already loved America, but that was his okay, I've got to stay here moment, right? This is now my home because I've got nowhere to go. That is a true refugee. He would have been put to death, and he knew it. And that's where some of these refugees, there's a lot of them in our community, especially in Salt Lake County, who love America. They see this as the last bastion of freedom, and if they lose this, that's it for the world. There really isn't anywhere else to go. We go to Mars, but so anyway, I really have a lot of sympathy for the refugee community, the true refugee community, and so some of these bills, so also at the end of that meeting, there was a bunch of Latino community leaders that were there, and they then had a second meeting and met with Carrie Ann Lisenby and Carlos and some others, and discussed some of these issues. And they showed up. I was just so impressed. And I speak Spanish, so I got to hear some of the things they were saying. I was so impressed. These are true Americans in the sense that they understand what we're doing here as a country. And so I got to give a shout out to them. I'm excited for them to be here.
Yeah.
And they're not the illegals. And let's be very careful not to just, accuse them of being illegals just because they're Latino. We want those people here.
Yeah, this leads itself into the conversation too about assimilation and what the schools do, and into the education conversation about assimilation and teaching government and citizenship to new people who have come and get citizenship. I had a conversation with Kim Coleman. She was teaching at a college, and she said it has been so fun to get these students whose parents sacrificed so much to get them here. And then because of the woke culture war that's happening, the kids don't understand, because they're saying that their American kids are saying, America has all these problems, but their parents have been telling them if we get to America, then everything will be okay. And so she said it's been fun to answer that question for them and show them the governmental structure and their, rights that are inherent and things that are protected under that. And I thought, what an interesting time that we live in, to have, certain students saying that America has all the problems, and other students coming from a place where parents are saying, if only we can get to this place. So yeah, what a disconnect.
Right.
Yeah. And what an opportunity for our state's school board of education to beef up those understandings. I know that they've Jonathan Johnson, I believe, put some protections in a little while ago on what needs to be taught, and we need to do more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen. So more on that. We'll get more as we get more details about this. I think it's also imperative that as we look at these bills and we see that it's it's heading in the right direction of some of the policies that we want to see, that as citizens that we're supporting these and we're supporting these lawmakers, right, to make it a possibility, right, and not just leave them on an island to take all the heat and etc. So more to come. I just really one question here. Any thoughts about the 364 days versus the 365 days in terms of does anyone have any insights to that?
So let's explain a little bit more. So, and I don't remember which crime. I want to say it's Class B misdemeanor that used to be 365 days. Which, if you had jail time for 365 days, that automatically, if you were an illegal alien, that automatically qualified you for immediate deportation. Mm-hmm. We need to get back to that. Somebody, I don't remember exactly who it was, had passed a bill saying it would be a 364 day, which then they would no longer be deported. We got to get back to you committed a crime, you're out of here. And I mean, you should have been out of here anyway, but now you've committed a crime, you're bumped to the top of the list. Let's get you out of here, because we're a country of laws and rules, and we've got to abide by those. And if you can't do that, you should be gone. So that's kind of what that's about. So the idea of bringing that back, I think I'm 100% supportive of that. We need to go back through the laws and make sure that there isn't anywhere in there that says that they, get the 364 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that the Candace Ferrucci one?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see more about these, and we'll talk more about it once we start seeing more details about it. So, one of the last topics that we have on this segment here is the Utah GOP leadership elections. So we had two parts to this. The first part is there is, for the next SEC meeting, there are elections that are probably going to be had for the vice chair position, I believe, and also for potentially the secretary position, right?
Potentially.
Yeah. And so any thoughts? Like, what have you guys heard about it? And I guess the second part, too, is as we look at convention, is Rob running again? Has anyone heard anything? So let's open the floor. Like, what have you guys heard?
Text him real quick.
Ooh, yeah, somebody ask him. Can I give a little context for those who don't know? So just like in your county, you have your central committee, the state has a central committee. And so most of those people, they're voted on. Ours are in Senate districts. I would imagine yours are too. And then they make up the governing body of the state GOP central committee, which passes bylaws and gives resolution suggestions and things like that. So Kim Coleman, who got elected as the national committee woman, resigned, which leaves open the vice chair seat. And so in February, I think it's February 8th, the SEC will be having an election to fill her spot, separate from the, organizing convention that's coming up, which is where people are wondering if Rob will be running again or who would be running against him. And
That's my only concern about this is why are we doing it so close to the organizing convention? It's not a criticism. I feel like we could
should we just hold off and?
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder if there's a bylaw that regulates the timing.
I don't know. We'd have to ask Rob. But
in our county, it's like 90 days from a vacancy. We have to like
fill it.
get
Okay,
something. I don't know
that
what the
makes
SEC said, what the state.
Yeah. Well, and if
believe,
that's the
but-
case, that's the case. I just not sure that it's a good use of our time, but whatever. We're gonna do it.
No, the real question is, can the SEC come together and get that business done and adopt the agenda on the 8th
Yeah,
and get that done?
We'll see.
Sorry, I know.
No,
I've been
no.
frustrated.
But by the way, I want to go back. I think Kim has been very effective.
Yeah.
And so Kim Coleman, who's currently the vice chair of the party, she's been very effective. I know she's worked with me on some things, helping with some legal advice.
Yeah.
All kinds of things that people don't see under the covers, and it's not the right word, but you just don't see in the public eye.
Sure.
And she's worked really hard. Rob has been amazing. I wasn't sure where Rob was going to be in the beginning, but he's ended up being an amazing chair. I'm super excited that he's done a great job. I don't know if he's going to run again, but I kind of hope he does. I'd like to see him continue with what he's done. But if we replace Kim, I mean, we better get another rock star in there. We need good leadership in there. So, if you're that caliber and you want to run for vice chair, I don't think there's any limitation. You don't have to be on the SEC. It could be anybody, right? So any registered Republican.
I think so.
Yeah.
So what have you heard about people who's running? Have you guys heard any rumors out there?
I know Chad Saunders filed. I know of another one, but I don't know if they filed, so I don't want to say it.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
No, that's the only one that I know for sure has filed.
Anyone with a name G starting with a G? No.
I'm not aware. We'll leave that one. You know what we don't need? We don't need any more conflict junkies. There are people out there just for conflict. They just want to create more conflict in the party. They're not productive. They're just destructive.
Yeah.
And let's get past that. Let's find somebody who's willing to work on these issues. Kim has been amazing.
Yeah.
Like I said, she's brought in legal assistance to the Salt Lake County Party that we've needed for years, dealing with issues that aren't public but are critical.
Yeah.
And she's done it for the state party. She's done it for the county. We need more people like that.
Yeah, and I'm all for controversy and debate all day long. But I echo exactly what you're saying. Let's have the discussions and discuss things on their merit.
Correct.
Yeah, we don't know where people come from. We don't understand their background knowledge, their understanding of governmental principles, other factors. And so, whatever, we'll get accused of, trying to say play nice, but I would say play classy. That's the advice. Of course, play how you want. But at the same time, I know so many people are frustrated. That was the number one thing after the last maybe 2 or 3 SEC meetings was people saying, I am so frustrated. And my vice chair did a whole video that he sent out just saying how frustrated they were that we couldn't get anything done. And I applaud and appreciate the intentions of people trying to bring up things that they think are of serious concern, agreed upon on some of those things, and we have to find a better path to get those things done on the SEC. Anyway, it's been frustrating, and I actually think a lot of people are ready to move forward and have those discussions, and we'll see on the 8th.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can, I think it's very important to have like a really good vice chair, someone that, wants to support. And I agree with your sentiment about argue and have that conversation, disagree as much as you want. But I think once the leader says, okay, this is the path that we're going, my military mind, it's like once the leader says, like, let's go, once it's time to go, then we all go on that same path. But then before then, we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
We can debate
And a good leader will listen to the debate.
Yeah, and exactly.
will
It's a two-way.
consider.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I absolutely agree with you.
I might be a little less agreeable on that one.
It's okay.
No, that's good. So I think obviously we'll see who's decides to run, and that should be fun to see that. And then if they want to run again, they're gonna have to run again convention. I'm assuming,
Yeah.
and then we'll see what happens with the HD4 elections. That's
yeah.
at the time of recording, it's going to be held
Replacing Karen.
on Saturday, so in about 2 days.
Have you guys seen any debates or anything come
I
through?
haven't, but I know that they're having them.
Okay.
It's interesting to see some of the candidates, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Apparently, one of the candidates is the former Democrat.
I saw that.
Wow,
I saw that.
the nerve. Sorry, but that's crazy.
Maybe a true change of heart.
That quick? No, sorry. And I don't have to be neutral on that. I'm not sharing that race.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it straight up. They have no business running. So I'm actually going to be proposing a bylaw amendment to say that you have to be a member of the party for a full year before you can run for any office. For trying to win the nomination of the party. And that will be for both public office and for party offices.
Okay, so just for context, like let me just list out the names
Yeah.
of people running.
Yeah.
So I might have one that's out of that. If you know who that person is, that's fine. Just let me know.
Sure.
So Tiara Auxier, is that how you pronounce her name? Auxier. We have Doug Durbano, Melanie how do you pronounce
Montessier?
that? Montessier. Okay, yep. And Stafford Palmieri. We all know Stafford. Ryan Treese, and then Logan Wild. Is there a last? I think there are 7 individuals.
You didn't list Chris, which is
okay.
the one I was referring to.
Maybe that's the last. As of the time, I didn't see it on my list, but Chris. Okay.
And I don't remember the last name, but it was Chris something. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that they do a debate and put it on YouTube. I want to watch it.
yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
No, that would be very interesting. So from that list that I put out there, like, who do you know from that list? Do you know everyone? Has everyone met everyone on there?
Well,
like
obviously
a
Wayne
few of them.
Stafford.
Yeah.
I know Melanie.
Melanie.
One of our
Melanie's the chair.
Yeah.
I don't know that I know the others that well, if I know them at all. I'd have to see faces. So.
Yeah.
And so since this is gonna air at a later time after the elections have been held, so I think we're fair. It's good enough fair to any predictions for that. It doesn't mean you're endorsing anyone, but just any predictions on who's.
I think Melanie has a
I was
going
gonna say Melanie.
Yeah.
But
She's a great leader.
yeah, not being close enough to that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I finally brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Chris Campbell was the former Democrat. And I'm looking at the pictures. Yeah, I don't recognize the others. But so I don't know. The delegates, or I guess, is it the delegates or the precinct chairs?
I think it's gonna be delegates.
In this case, it's delegates.
Yeah.
Okay, because it depends at different times. They're going to have their hands full. I mean, I hope they go in and get to know each of these candidates really well.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I go in thinking, this is the person, this is the right person for it. But then you go and talk to somebody and you're blown away by their understanding of law or the freedoms and things. And I change my mind like that. So it's up to them. I'm not trying to promote anybody or detract from anybody. Yeah. Well, I am from Chris. But this is why we have delegates. This is the representation that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And look at how important it is right now. This is right before a general session. That's why they're rushing it, by the way, is to make sure they can get
somebody in that seat
done in time. They have to be and they have to go through the what do you call it? The anyway, it has to be done before the session starts for them to.
Oh, gotcha. Yes.
That's why it's such a rush.
Yeah. No, I love special elections. I'm excited for them. I'll participate remotely, by watching their debates and stuff. But
yeah,
are you guys gonna be there?
It's my anniversary now.
Where's it? Do we know where it's being?
Colville. I know it's in Colville, Utah. Yeah, obviously in Utah.
But I will be paying attention.
Yeah.
I will be listening.
Well, I know with Christy doing about like 90%, 95% attendance.
93,
93.
Let's go. Shout out. House District 4 is going to need to step up.
Yeah.
93.1.
That brings us to the end of this episode 2. Thank you all for listening. I do want to make a huge, want to say something to us. So like a huge, thoughts and prayers to our brothers and sisters out in California with the wildfires. That's just terrible. I know there are a few donations that are out there. If you can, please go donate as much as you can. That's terrible. Whatever. If you have a chance to listen and see what's going on there, that's that's not good. So our thoughts and prayers to our brothers and sisters out in California. And next week, we'll be back here and we'll have some more bills. And, as we get more details, we'll dive into those conversations as well. Any final words from you guys, Christy?
Well, I'm going to take the temperature of some of our LCCs, see what bills are popping up for them as, red flag or green flag. And we've got a central committee meeting on Saturday. Unfortunately, it coincides with the Eagle Forum Convention. Luckily, we don't have a lot of business. And so my hope is that for those who need to attend both, they can attend both. Man, my feelings won't be hurt if you end up at the Eagle Forum Convention. We luckily don't have a ton of business there, but we do have a bylaw that needs to be voted on. And then we have big announcements that we're going to be putting on our website with our Lincoln Day dinner.
Oh, nice.
Our convention, Elephant Society is going to be meeting. If you want tickets to our Lincoln Day dinner, you can get them at ucrp.org. There's a red button at the top. We have the Thanksgiving Point barn, and we're gonna pack it. So super excited about that. We're moving into that, and then the legislative session, and it feels extremely busy. But there's lots of exciting stuff.
Great. Thanks, Christy. Chris?
Yeah, so we've got a few things coming up. I'm just looking at my calendar to make sure I don't miss anything. So we've got we have an executive committee on the 22nd, and that's where I'm going to try to get some of this information back regarding the bills as well. So what you're doing. So I'm going to ask them to have that prepared so that when we do speak after that, I'll have some really good information. Saturday, February 1st is our central committee meeting. So I don't think we have a ton of business there. But again, we're going to be proposing a couple amendments. So it's an important one. And it's more about getting the precinct chairs need to get ready to get the delegates to convention, both county convention and state convention. So we're going to be pumping up our precinct chairs. Precinct chairs start now. Make sure you got everyone attending. And then let's see. Yeah, the SEC you mentioned on the 8th. And then our Lincoln Day dinner is going to be, oh gosh, I put it on here. Is it? Nope. Sorry. It was the.
Are you the 22nd?
I think we're on. Oh, I'm so sorry.
We
removed it from the calendar because we had to move it and it didn't get put back on.
Oh, you had to move it as in the date or just?
But it's the one that you're aware of.
Okay.
We'll put it on the screen.
Yeah,
Here,
please,
so.
please. So we're gonna have Lincoln Day dinner. What we're doing, and this is, I still have to sign some contracts. So, but the idea is we're gonna have casino night. And so we're going to make this a fun Lincoln Day dinner.
Nice.
More affordable for others to come in, but we really got to raise money for the party. So it's going to be a fun event. And then at the end of the night, you'll acquire points. And the more points you have, the more opportunity you'll have to win some of the raffle items. And so we've got a couple things we're working on, some really fun ones. Hope everyone can make it and help support the party for that. And then, of course, our convention is going to be on March 15th. And that is where I'm sorry, March 15th.
March 15th. Okay.
And we're trying to do it early. Yeah.
That's our Lincoln Day dinner.
That's your Lincoln Day dinner.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, we still have tentative. Maybe we can work.
Yeah.
But right now, that is the plan. Maybe we'll talk.
Yeah.
So, but when we have the organizing convention for Salt Lake County, that is to replace me as a chair. And we have some interesting candidates and exciting things coming there. So, and of course, we'll be voting for the SEC, the new SEC members as well. So, anybody who's interested in running for the SEC, that's the time. And if you're interested in running for party officer, a Salt Lake County party officer, that's the time to run for that. So, we'll get back and we might work on that a little bit.
Yeah. So as you know, March 15th for Davis County, that's our Lincoln Day dinner. Saturday, we're gonna have a silent auction as well. So really exciting if you show up. We're waiting on our guest speaker, so we have a few names that I've sort of tentatively agreed, but really exciting names. I can't share it now, but we should be able to once we finalize.
Nice teaser, Yummy.
Yeah. With that, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week.